October 9th. I'm Rim.
I'm hot.
And this is Geeknights. No, you're not. Tonight, we stop talking about Team Fortress 2.
Let's do this.
So I don't know when you guys are going to hear this, since our internet is coming and going in a bad way.
I hate. That's all I got to say.
You know, we were just talking a second ago about this, but it's almost like if your internet is working, it's great. If it's not working at all, it's fine, because, all right, it's not working. I'm not even going to try. But when it almost works, when it kind of works, when every now and then I see a new thing on Dig or a page loads, it's almost like if your car, your car, if it's broken and it breaks down, crap, I call a mechanic or I call a tow truck. If the car breaks down, but it's still kind of going, you almost feel like, hello, I'm almost there. I'll make it. I'll keep driving. And you're going 5 miles an hour down the freeway, and your car's not going to make it. But
well, it's sort of like driving with a donut. It's like you can drive, but it sucks. It's almost worse than not driving, because at least when it's like driving in traffic. You're driving, everything works, but you're just not getting at where as fast as you could be. But it's out of your control.
Ronkonkoma across the Long Island Expressway to Rochester in one go on a donut.
Yeah.
It sucked.
Yep.
It's like, don't take this thing more than 50 miles an hour. And I'm going 50. And I'm going 50. And then I'm like, 51. 52. 53. Shake, 50. 51.
Cruise control 49.
Yep. At least there was no danger of getting a speeding ticket.
That's for sure.
Though actually, I almost got a speeding ticket coming home today.
Oh, so did you?
I didn't though, but I'm coming into Beacon. You know, the speed limit goes from 55 to 30 in the span of like an inch.
Yep.
It's also funny because the road goes from crappy to brand new and awesome right at the border of Beacon, right where the speed limit drops.
Yep.
And I'm going 35. Speed limit's 30. There's a guy in front of me going 35. Speed limit's 30. A cop comes out of nowhere and pulls him over for going 35.
Oh.
The only reason he didn't pull me over, because I kind of ran while he was pulling that guy over, and I know he was going to try and get me. I just kind of turned off a side street and went, and got off on another street and came home.
Nice job.
Which I've done often.
Yep.
I guess I should say that everything I just said was a lie. I've never actually run away from a police officer.
If he wasn't actively pulling you over, you didn't run. You just decided to go on a detour on your way home.
Hypothetically, in the past, it's possible that I might have done that when a cop had his lights on and just couldn't catch me because there was an exit. Because it was poorly planned. He didn't think his clever plan through, and he had a speed trap at the front of a hill, but behind the hill was an exit. But yeah. I may or may not have run away from the cops in that situation.
The thing is, if they
I may or may not have hid in a rest stop.
If they actually got close enough to you to where there was no way to say, oh, he wasn't actually pulling me over, and there was no uncertainty.
Well, hypothetically, let's say I was the only car on the road in any direction for as far as anyone can see, and let's say hypothetically I was going maybe 90, and let's say that hypothetically, were this actually to have happened, that he was just sitting there, and I watched his radar gun track me, his lights turned on while it was pointed at me, and then he floored it. But let's just say I may or may not have parked the car in the back of a rest stop and sat in the rest stop acting like I was shopping for 20 minutes while the cop may or may not have driven around the rest stop and all the areas by that exit looking for a purple Sunfire. But no, that didn't happen at all.
All right.
Right, so no internet made it tough to find news, so I'm going to do a GeekBite.
Oh, man.
And I think it's a good GeekBite, particularly because I know a lot of you have probably never played this, and while I have played it in other forms a little bit, not in any span or any reasonable amount to actually have really, I couldn't have said I played it. But Mario 2, the real Mario 2, the Mario 2 that Japan looked at and said Americans would not be able to play this game, was never released here.
Except
Mario
until
2.
it was released. It was released for the Super Nintendo as part of Mario All-Stars, which is sort of a re-skinning of Mario 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, both twos, and Mario World. So that, like, if you bought a Super Nintendo early on, you got Super Mario World. If you bought a Super Nintendo later on, you got Mario All-Stars, which is like every Mario game on one Super Nintendo.
I never owned it just because, other than, Mario 2, the real one, not Doki Doki Panic Mario 2, which I think is actually a lot better game, and I'm really glad Japan did that. But, I owned all those games, so it never seemed worth it to buy it for the lost levels, and I just kind of forgot about him.
Yep, and then later on, it was released a second time in the U.S. because they came out with a cartridge for the Game Boy Color. It was a Game Boy Color only cartridge. You can also play it on a GBA or GBA SP, but not on a Game Boy Micro or a DS. And this cartridge, I have it, is Super Mario Brothers Deluxe, and it has Mario 1... the real original Mario 2 from Japan, and a whole bunch of other miscellaneous garbage that you can do also. And the third time it has been released in the United States of America is just now. You can get the original, unmodified real deal for the Virtual Console for $6.
It's like, 600 points.
$6.
Now, I highly recommend you buy it, and my only real reason for that is that while I don't want to buy a lot of Virtual Console games, and they are kind of really expensive, there's something to be said for buying the absolute classics, because that is the perfect way to play those games nowadays. It works 100% like the original. The graphics are the best they'll ever be. That Mario 1 on the Wii is so crisp looking and just perfect.
It's the best Mario 1.
And I gotta say this. This is the main gist of what I want to say. Mario 2... a lot of people, when they found out that, Japan didn't think that Americans could handle this game and decided not to release it, well, there's probably more to the story than that, because Mario 2 was basically a hacked-together piece of shit in Japan.
It wasn't a piece of shit.
It was literally, people always say, Nintendo, they innovate. They're the innovators. Every sequel they make is always like leaps and bounds beyond. Mario 2 is identical to Mario 1, except the graphics are a little glitchier.
They're not glitchier. They're the same.
They look crappy. Because the way they set it up, the way the levels don't look as polished. The sprites they used and where they used them and the way they set the backgrounds up is not nearly as polished as Mario 1.
No, it's not. I don't know. There's just something about it.
The levels feel really hackish. It feels like something a kid would have thrown together. Like, what if I made it so I could jump over the flagpole? What if I made it so there was a blooper here? What if I made it so there was a poison mushroom?
Yeah, basically, what they did is they added the poison mushroom, and they came up with the craziest level design they possibly could. And the thing is, the level design is what isn't polished, not the graphics.
Yeah, the level design. I mean, I guess I said graphics because they'll use a sprite or a block in a certain place, and it just looks like it was hacked there, like it doesn't actually belong there.
But that's where it goes.
But if you've never played this game before, because I had never played it at length until now, and Emily was watching me play it.
On the Game Boy Color with Super Mario Brothers Deluxe, I was able to get to, I think, 8-2 or 8-3. I think 8-2.
And that took some doing.
That took a lot of doing.
Well, I started playing it when it came out. I've played maybe
this was back in the high school days, like 10th grade. So.
Yeah. That game is, I guess frustrating might be the word. Difficult. It brought back all those emotions.
It's not as hard as Silver Surfer.
No, it's not. But it feels as difficult for me now as Mario 1 felt when I was a little kid and I played it for the first couple of times. I got to relive that whole experience of playing a game like that that's difficult, and I can't get past things easily, and I have to find secrets.
Yeah. Remember that thing of the day where it was the incredibly hard Mario 1 levels and the guy just couldn't beat him?
This thing does stuff like that.
It does stuff
There's a lot of times where you go...
But at the same time, it's not even close to that level of difficulty.
But it's that same kind of thing where sometimes, like, you go to jump, and there's just an invisible block where you were jumping, and it knocks you into a pit.
Yep, it happens. And sometimes you'll be in the dark, and you'll hit a block, and a mushroom comes out.
You're like, is it poison? I don't know. I can't tell. Fuck,
Because the above ground... Regular mushrooms are sort of yellow and red, the usual colors, and poison mushrooms are like green, and you could tell. But underground, every mushroom is blue and green, and you don't know which ones are poison and which ones aren't.
The worst thing is, I gotta say, because I never thought about it when I played Mario normally, because the mushroom was always like this wonderful thing, and I loved it. Now that there's also a bad mushroom, watching that bad mushroom move around was a little bit scary, just because it moves so purposefully and so much faster than any bad guy in that game moves.
Yep.
Bad guys are all kind of like, a-doop-a-doop-a-doo. It's like, oh, it's a turtle walking real slow. It's a beetle going real slow. It's a Podboros, they're fast, but they can only go in certain places. But
the bad guys move in a pattern, predictable way.
It's not that menacing, but those poison mushrooms are really menacing. Like, psychologically, ththose things bother me.
Because they come right at, because it's sort of weird. In the game, they positioned the regular mushrooms to sort of always go away from you to make them hard to get. Like, you'll have to hit it and then hit a brick to make it bounce so that you'll actually go in the direction you want it to go so that you can get it. But meanwhile, the poison mushrooms, they come right at you like, here I come. And you ever think about avoiding a mushroom? Not easy. I mean, it's really hard to avoid a mushroom, especially when you don't have a lot of room to move around in. You know?
And also,
and it's not like it's a Goomba. Like if a Goomba, right, is coming straight at you, right, and there's bricks above your head. Well, that's fine. You'll just jump and step on the Goomba. Imagine if the bricks are very low above your head, and you have to go over the Goomba, and it's moving faster. Because if you touch the top of the poison mushroom, it still hurts you. That's the menacing part, is that there's nothing you can do to fight against it. You can't shoot it with a fire.
It's just so purposeful and so scary.
It's just, you can't touch it at all.
I think the worst thing about this game is that, well, worst, not in a bad way, but in the most frustrating thing, but I like it. I really like the fact that the game is this way, because it gives me all sorts of ways to relive the frustration of my childhood, which I think played a big role in making me the man I am today. I don't think you could understand out there if you didn't play these old Nintendo games. You should probably watch some Angry Video Game Nerd. It really felt like that to play a lot of those games.
It sure did.
Squeezing the controller so hard you almost break it and just But in Mario 1, if you found a secret, it was always something awesome. If you found a warp zone...
Pretty much in every Nintendo game in the United States, if you found a secret of any kind, it was awesome. It was like, a secret! Yeah, a secret was synonymous with awesome. There was no such thing as a bad secret.
So in this Mario 2...
It's not like... And it wasn't even like Half-Life 2, where in Half-Life 2 you find a secret, and it's like med kits and a gun and some ammo. Oh, but there's a zombie in here. I'll just shoot the zombie, you know?
I'll tell the story. I'm walking, and, I figure, all right... In Mario 1, there's a warp zone on top of the first dungeon world. And I can get on top in this game. I know there's something back there. Let's go back there and see. And hey, there's just more level. Hey, there's a bunch of pipes. I go into a pipe. It takes me somewhere else weird. What? Get into another pipe. Somewhere else even weirder. What? What the? And then I just died. So then later, I go into another pipe, and I find this weird place, and then I see a warp zone up ahead. I'm like, hot diggity damn! And I see only one pipe in there, and I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be one of those, like, straight to the end of the game warps. And no, it was a warp back to World 1. The only thing that made it better, and Emily was laughing because I'm standing there, and Mario just stops, and I'm looking, and I see a warp back to World 1, and, they're really nice to you in this game. They really want to make it a pleasant experience. Right next to this warp back to World 1 is a hole, so that if I don't want to take my bad medicine, I can just fucking kill myself. and that is what I did. And I jumped over a flagpole, and I was like, oh man, I jumped over a flagpole, and I keep running. Oh man, there's a pipe back here. Suicide hole, warp zone to World 1. It got to the point where I'm playing, and I'm afraid to go into any pipe, because there might be something bad down there.
Yeah, it's like you don't ever find the real warp zones, because you're so afraid that most of the warp zones are fake. So, you don't go for the secrets.
I was just waiting for a warp zone to lie to me.
That's what I ended up doing a lot of Half-Life 2. It's like, if I play Half-Life 2, if I have ammo, and I have health, and I see like a house on the side of the road, and I know that in that house are probably a lot of weapons, but also a lot of bad guys, and I have the option of just not going to that house, I just don't go to that house. I keep driving.
You know how hard it is for me to do that? I have the FPS instinct.
The first time I played Half-Life 2, I stopped at every single house, and I went to every single room. And now when I play Half-Life 2, because I just beat it the other day, because I'm preparing for Episode 2, which comes out tomorrow.
God, don't do that. I haven't even played BioShock, and I own it. I haven't even beaten Half-Life 2.
Well, I beat Half-Life 2 again, and I'm halfway through beating Episode 1 again.
I spent my whole weekend playing Team Fortress, and I became the transcendent spy.
Right, but now what I do is I just burn through the game as fast as I can, only doing the necessary bits, because why should I waste my time walking around all these rooms to kill zombies when I know there's nothing
Actually,
there
for Bioshock, I was playing that way. I didn't go after secrets. I just kind of played it, kind of just straight up.
In a game like that, though, I would stop for everything.
Well, I'd stop for anything cool or interesting, but I'm not, worried about finding everything. I'm worried about just enjoying the game.
Because I was playing System Shock 2. I still didn't beat it. I barely played it, actually, but... the little part I did play, I had to investigate everything.
See, I don't know. I feel like if I don't have this desire to get, the 100%o in a game
I don't have
like
a desire to get the 100%, but, the fun of the game is that there's all these bits to poke all over the place, and I gotta poke all of them.
I feel like it's more fun if I just play through the game doing whatever strikes my fancy. And
what strikes my fancy is poking all the pokey bits.
It depends. You didn't poke all those houses.
I did the first time I played.
See, I'm playing the game the first time, and I'm still not poking all the houses.
Whoa, crazy. All right. Oh, I guess I have to do a news, right?
I guess you do.
So, we used to go on to this podcast and talk about how PC gaming was dead.
And it kind of was.
It kind of still is, mostly.
It's getting better. I think a lot of people are
basically
coming
there's
back.
one game for the PC that's sort of bringing it back, the Orange Box. And that's it. And the Orange Box is on Xbox 360, and it's going to be on PS3 later on. But tomorrow, it's going to be available for PC and 360. In fact, on your PC, you could download it right now, and they'll probably let you play it at midnight, I'm guessing.
You might remember that feeling from when Tribes 2, or not Tribes 2. I wish Tribes 2 came out again. Team Fortress 2. And, we're sitting there, and Scott's like, it's on our computers right now. It's just missing a couple of bits. If we knew those bits, we could play right now.
Basically, they give you all the data files, but they don't give you the exe files to the last second. Yeah.
I read somewhere else that they just give you an encrypted game and then they decrypt it.
It's some combination of the two things. That's what I've heard. But mostly it's the data files. That way there's less stress on their servers the day of, is what the idea is.
Yeah, of course, totally
and
mitigated.
And it's also helpful for you because as soon as the game comes out, you can play immediately. It's
totally mitigated
everybody.
by the fact that even though people have it preloaded, they sit there refreshing Steam constantly, even though that doesn't do anything, for 4 hours.
Not helped by the fact that our internet's not working so right now.
Yeah.
But just to prove, yet another reason why PC gaming's not doing so well, right? I guess the hit PC game that's coming that some people are excited for that I don't really give a shit about, honestly, is this Crysis game. And it looks to be another sort of generic Far Cry kind of FPS, in the jungle, military, so a little bit of sci-fi action.
I'm waiting for Portal. I couldn't care less about Crysis.
Yeah. But, Portal's coming out tomorrow. Crysis is coming out November 13th.
You know how hard this is? I have this bonanza of gaming, and I'm not even touching my GBA anymore. I'm not even...
Yeah. But this news, I gotta tell you, okay? Today they released the system requirements and recommendations for Crysis. And this is the hit PC game that people are excited about. And I just want to read these system requirements. I'm not going to say anything else after that, other than this is one more piece of evidence on the pile that despite the Orange Box, PC gaming is still not too well in the United States, at least. Because, if the Orange Box is all you got, that's great, but that's one thing, and it's not even a PC exclusive.
All right,
and this is the next best thing on the PC, right?
So hit us with it.
Okay, Windows XP or Vista. All right, these are the minimums. Okay, I'll do the recommended after I do the minimum. Processor: 2.8 gigahertz or faster for Windows XP. 3.2 gigahertz or faster for Vista.
Whoa, wait a minute. Core 2 gigahertz
That's
or Pentium 4 gigahertz?
That's all it says. Then it says memory. 1 gig or 1.5 gigs if you have Vista. Video card. A 256 meg video card would be nice, but it has to be at least a GeForce 6800 GT or better.
Wow, that's actually pretty high, relatively.
Yeah. Oh, supported, okay. Oh, here's the explanation of the processors. An Intel Pentium 4 2.8 gigahertz, yeah, that's the minimum.
See, it's weird how all the PC games...
But if you have Vista, you need a Pentium 4 3.2 gigahertz.
All the PC games seem to give speeds relative to the Pentium 4, and I find that strange because you think...
No, because in the recommendeds, they give it a Core 2.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
So then, let's see, video card, hard drive, 12 gigs of space.
God, I remember when a game that took up 200 megs was crazy.
And under requirements, it says sound card DirectX non-compatible, but you can't play without a sound card? I guess. Okay. All right, recommended. Intel Core 2 Duo at 2.2 gigahertz.
All right, I beat that.
2 gigs of RAM.
I got more than that.
a GeForce 8800 GTS /640 or similar.
That's not worth it.
And basically, everyone on the internet is saying, well, you want to play this game, you're going to have to shell out to buy a new computer.
I think the problem is BioShock didn't even run so well on my computer, and my computer is pretty badass.
Yep. And if you really, think about it, these same games, if you put them on the 360, it's not because you put the same game on the 360, it runs nicer. It's because when you program a game for the 360, you're building it to one unchanging hardware target, right? If you make Crysis has to work on pretty much all sorts of PCs with all sorts of different setups. So you can't really optimize it very much when you compile it.
And there used to be a lot of problems with games where, like, if you had a certain motherboard processor combination, usually an Athlon something, some games would crash.
Yeah, but for a 360, the 360 is a lot less powerful than this kind of machine. But all 360s have the same hardware. So you can optimize the software for the 360 or for a Wii or for a PS or for any console because all the consoles have the same exact hardware. So when you build the software, when you compile it, you can really optimize it for that specific machine, and a much less powerful machine can do a lot more stuff. So that's the reason that one thing that's really hurting PC gaming in the US is because you need a much more powerful machine because they can't optimize the software very much.
See, the thing is,
thus it's more expensive.
You wouldn't need,
and they're putting out the same games for the 360
you
and the
wouldn't
PS3
need
and the Wii.
a much more powerful machine. I mean, look, Team Fortress 2 looks amazing. BioShock isn't, it works pretty well, even if you turn the graphics down. It still looks really great. Half-Life 2 looked amazing, and those games require almost nothing of your computer.
Because these people are graphics nuts. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that is the problem.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
I think the real indicator of how well PC gaming is doing is just that you'd think, all right, a good idea. Team Fortress 2 has been this anticipated game forever, and you could get into the pre-order. So you imagine, like, all the hardcore PC gamers bought the orange box and are going to play the Team Fortress 2 beta. There aren't that many Team Fortress 2 servers, and there aren't that many people playing the game. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, there's only
playing.
There are only thousands of players, and that's it.
Thousands.
Yeah,
anime sells more than that.
Yeah, back in the day, thousands of players at a time. But even
then, Counter-Strike, God.
Counter-Strike, we're talking tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. Of course, we'll see what happens after tomorrow.
And tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day.
Yep. Orange box. As you're listening to this, the orange box is probably available. Why don't you have it? Buy it online. Don't buy the box in the store. Unless you have dial-up, then buy the box in the store.
If you have dial-up, I don't know what to tell you. Things of the day. I gotta talk about it. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Meet the Demo Man is out. It's really funny.
I'm against Rim doing this thing of the day because it's something everyone's probably already seen. Who cares?
I don't think everyone has. And two, there's nothing else on the internet funny.
Well, I think the problem is we don't have an internet connection to find out.
Yeah, that is also the problem. Because I was going to look for something else, but YouTube not going so well. And Walscott showed me Ignis Solus. And that's the first machinima for, Team Fortress 2. And it started out really cool. It went nowhere and was really disappointing. I was sad.
It was okay.
It could have been so great.
It was no Father Frank's best.
Dave and Joel talked about Bubblegum Crysis and how they realized suddenly that while they thought they liked it in an ironic sense, no, they like it in a real sense. When it comes to Father Frank's best, I do not like it in a non-ironic sense. It is not funny at all. It is only funny and only noteworthy because it was like the first machinima ever.
The Father Frank's Best trailer is on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder if it's the original deal.
I'm trying to find the real thing.
I've got it. I've got a hard drive with my original Quake 2 install that's been passed from PC to PC.
Here it is. I found a website that has it.
Oh, good.
Zarathustra Studios.
Yep, that's it.
All right.
I'll warn you all. Maybe I should just make Father Frank's Best my thing of the day.
That's what I was saying you should do.
I think I've already done that, though.
Well, let me find out. The internet's kind of working right now.
All right, regardless, if you can find a video of it or just get a hold of Quake 2 and know how to install a mod for Quake 2, which I'll warn you is not so trivial, then you can watch Father Frank's Best, which is among the first machinima. And you know what? It's
This is the first FPS machinima.
Yeah. I still can't think of any before that I knew of.
Nah, me either.
Granted, some people made some scary things in Sierra's The Realm, but I don't know if that was machinima or just cyber sex.
Yeah, I don't know what counts. Okay, check this out. We always rag on Halo, right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
I think the analogy for Halo is very simply that the Renaissance.
This is pretty cool when you came up with this the other day.
The Renaissance in Italy was a great thing. It was like the world had gone through this dark age and people had forgotten a lot of things. And then people started rediscovering this joy, this wealth of knowledge and information and art. And people
it's
started...
like there was Rome and Greece and all this amazingness. Then there was a dark age. And then people remembered what the good stuff they used to have before the dark age, and they brought it back. This revival.
So
Renaissance.
First-person shooters like Halo are effectively the Renaissance of first-person shooters, except that it's like if the Renaissance happened, like, say, in Britain, but Rome was still there. And they just, like, forgot about it. Because we had this gold, like, FPSs made these leaps and bounds and were amazing. And then they just kind of fell off the radar for a long time. And there were these experiences that us old FPSers had. And then you see that new gamers who have never played these old FPSs and don't realize the wealth of the Roman Empire that collapsed around them. Even though it didn't really collapse, it just kind of disappeared.
It's still there. We still have all the tablets.
We're still in Rome and we're watching your Renaissance build itself up. And,
we're still drinking until we vomit, then drinking again.
Oh, how quaint. They've discovered two-dimensional art yet again. Perhaps soon they will find music.
Yep.
But games like Halo, while they're kind of like a rebirth of these old games, and they didn't really do anything new, and I don't think they're really better than a lot of much older FPSs. But at the same time, all these kids play these games like Halo. And while they don't know the culture of the old FPSs, they never went through all the things we went through and kind of had the collective society of FPSing that we had. I noticed in Scott's video that he's going to talk about in a second, prove that some of these things, much like art in the Renaissance versus art in the ancient Greco-Roman world, are universal. And even if they're destroyed, humans tend to recreate the same great things over and over again. And the cycle repeats. And this video is just... it is the renaissance of everything that is great about FPSs. And the fact that these kids are experiencing these things without knowing, just completely on their own in a vacuum, validates my childhood.
Yeah, I mean, because back in the day, you'd play yourself a Counter-Strike, right? And there'd be some amazing thing would happen. Like,
no one would believe you either, but there'd be legends about it.
Like, someone would throw a grenade, and it would bounce some guy into a roof, but he wouldn't die. He'd have, like, a health left. And then he'd take out his deagle, like, turn around real quick and shoot randomly and get a headshot, and the team would win. It'd be like, oh, man!
Or, like, the one time when you're playing Action Quake 2, and it's 8-on-8, and your whole team dies, and it's you versus the whole enemy team, and then something happens and somehow you're breathing heavily, they're all dead, you've won, and everyone is typing WTF.
Yep. You know, when you play an FPS, crazy shit likes to happen. That's just because the way the games work, stuff goes on and people go, oh my god, oh man. And Team Fortress, you could tell the people who designed it were trying purposefully to capture that essence of FPSing where crazy stuff happens by making a game where the game is the crazy stuff happening. But in Halo, like every other FPS, crazy stuff still happens. And this is a video of something particularly crazy happening in Halo involving a guy, a grenade, and some jet of air. And they got a really good video of it, I must say.
It is. It's perfect. It's kind of,
like, never having played this game, but having played other FPSs, I watch it and I go, that's the business.
It's just like that video where they were shooting vehicles into the sky.
Yeah, there was that other... I think it was a thing of the day a long time ago.
I think it was.
They had the shields in Halo, and they'd put a vehicle on the shield, disable the shield, then enable the shield, and it would make the vehicle fly into the sky, and it was all crazy.
And that is the same thing, kinda, that we used to do back in Counter-Strike.
That is the
and
same,
on that APC map.
Yeah, that is the same essence that is being captured in this video, and that Team Fortress 2 tries to recreate intentionally. And that is why FPSs are awesome, especially multiplayer FPSs. Anyway.
Yes. So for a lot of you say, oh, Rim and Scott, you're so down on modern FPSs. It's more that we're living in Rome, so we have no desire to go to, piss-filled Renaissance
We don't need
Italy.
to Renaissance to bring back Rome. We're there. We've been there for a long time. We're not going anywhere.
And we really want a lot of you to come join us because
Halo, why are you hanging out trying to recreate what we already have and are offering?
But at the
you?
same time, I don't feel bad about games like Halo because there are so many kids who never played these old games, and a lot of computer FPSs are kind of hard to play.
And they're very inaccessible. Well, Halo is very accessible.
These kids get
$300 million accessible.
These kids get those same experiences of like a LAN party, but instead of having to go to a LAN party, which back in the day was quite a feat, they just bring their Xbox to a friend's house and plug them in with a special cable.
And it's okay because all the people in like Europe and other places in Korea where they don't have consoles so much, or consoles are looked down upon, or the release
God, I feel like
my crap.
My video game soul when I die is going to leave my body independent of the rest of me and go to South Korea and just possess some kid.
Because mostly Northern Europe where they still have like the giant many thousand computer LAN parties where all they play is like modern FPSs.
Man, we should talk about LAN parties because they don't happen like they used to.
Nope. Anyway.
Yeah.
So today, against my argument,
I think there's a lot to say, and thus we can be done with it. We can close this chapter in our lives.
Rim wants to talk yet again about Team Fortress 2.
Well, we've been able to play it a bunch now, and things are starting to solidify. I'm starting to see exactly
and
what's
the final
good and
version
bad.
comes out tomorrow, so I can't assume that the version we're playing is much different from the final version.
Yeah, nothing's gonna change.
Yeah. But, yeah. I mean, we did an episode about Team Fortress, like, through the years.
Yep, and then we
talked about Team Fortress 2 a few times.
Yeah, but always, like, as an aside or a tangent. And, I'm kind of worried about the longevity of the game still, and I think my main reason for that is that anytime skilled players play against skilled players, the game is always a stalemate. Always. Anytime two teams are competent in any level of competence, the game just evolves into a perfect stalemate.
Yeah. I've noticed that pretty much if the other team does something smart, unless a whole bunch of people on my team are smart, unless I have more smart people on my team than they have on their team, there's no way that I can get through their defense or stop their offense.
It is
At
possible.
the same time, if people on my team are doing smart stuff and the other team is doing stuff that's not so smart, I can't help but just capture the intelligence or capture the points or just dominate them.
Now, that used to happen in old FPSs. I mean, I can't say that, like, if there were 5 clanners, like me and 4 friends from a clan were on a team in a pub server somewhere in Weapons Factory, that we wouldn't just dominate the ever-living crap out of the other team, because that kind of thing happens. But in this game, in Team Fortress 2, because the FPS skill cap is so low, and I'm going to say that again, because while we said, oh, I feel like it's low, there's no way to argue against it at this point. It takes very little FPS skill to play anything but the sniper in Team Fortress 2.
But surprisingly, so few people have the skill. It's pretty much a Boolean. It's not like Quake where you could be like bad, good, decent, better, awesome, amazing, super amazing, God, fatality.
Yep. If you're an
God
engineer,
2.
you either are a optimal or near optimal engineer, or you are a useless engineer.
Pretty much. It's like there's a way to engineer perfectly. It's like if you know the map and you know how to use the engineer, and your team doesn't have like an excess of engineers, so you're useless.
Well, if your team's just smart at all, like 2 Fort's an example. If you're playing like a 6-on-6, the absolute perfect defense, there are 2 different places to put the sentry in the flag room, and you kind of alternate so they can't predict, and every now and then you might move it. And you have a pyro running around down there. And between the engineer and the pyro, unless the entire enemy team attacks at once, and no one comes to defend you, which they would if your team's smart, you have a perfect defense. It's optimal. There's nothing better.
Yeah, it's like the most skilled scout in the universe could not get through. What's he gonna do? The most skilled soldier in the universe could not get through. He's gonna get set on fire. This is just the way the map is, and as long as you're smart, it doesn't. They really need to come in with something big and in full force to get through. And in order to get through with something that big, the rest of your team would have to be completely incompetent. At the same time, if you make with an awesome offense, like let's say you come in with you got 2 medics, you got a heavy, you got smart soldiers, you got some scouts that know how to move, you got some snipers backing you up from far away, you can get across into the enemy intelligence room, plus like 1 or 2 spies that know what's going on. you'll get through every time. I mean, as a scout alone, 9 times out of 10, I can get to the enemy intelligence room.
Granted, the reason we were able to do that is because no one in this fucking game playing it, except the clanners from other old FPSs like this, understands probably one of the most important tactical, innovations in the history of warfare, and that is called defense in depth. You don't put 4 sentries in the goddamn flag room. You have a defensive perimeter and then an internal perimeter. Someone shouldn't be able to just get right to the flag room. They should have to fight their way to the flag room. That way, by the time they get to the flag room, they're already weak and you finish them off.
Yep, there is a spot in the map because there's only 2 ways to get. There's only 2 entrances and exits to the basement. One of them is in the open air area with the stairs and the wooden barn, and the other place is through like the main lobby of where, all the guys typically spawn, right up at the front of the, right behind the battlements, right? And there's the spiral ramp. You can position a turret so that it can shoot at people going down the spiral ramp and going to the barn. So if you put that there and you have one in the intelligence room and then you have some people in the waterworks maybe downstairs, no one can get through. There's nothing they can do.
And what it basically breaks down to is that if everyone plays their classes well, and optimally, because games like this, all games break down when players all play optimally. That's why we always complain about a lot of German board games. Like, they're really fun, but once you know how to play optimally, and everyone else playing knows how to play optimally, the game's not fun because...
Yeah, it's like Settlers of Catan. You don't know how the game works. You just learned it. You're new to games like this. You start playing. It's crazy fun. You're trading. You're wheeling and dealing. You're building your roads.
Someone rolls 7, and then everyone bribes them. Like, please don't put it on me. I'll give you a sheep.
Yep. Then, once you realize how to play, you learn everything, and you're playing with 3 other people who know as much as you do. They're masters of the game. There's no decisions. It's not fun. It comes down to who rolls the dice and what the dice say.
In more complex FPSs. Now, again, I'm not going to say that those old complex Team Fortress-style games were better, because that is not a road I want to go down. I'm not even going to pretend those games were better in any objective sense. But what they were...
In many ways, they were far worse.
Yes, God. But what they were is... There was a much larger skill component of players, and tactics mattered a lot, but individual skill mattered. You could not play the engineer optimally in those games. You could not play the optimal recon.
Like, there was a theoretical, you knew the theoretical limits of what could be done with, say, the engineer. You knew what he was capable of.
But humans
to actually execute that with your mouse and keyboard was so incredibly difficult.
Like, the number of people who played near optimally in games like that were few and far between, and those people were the fatalities of their day. Those people were gods among FPS men.
Yeah. It's like reflexes and aiming and button pushing and twitching and aim, all that sort of stuff mattered a lot. So even if you picked the right class, you picked medic, and you knew exactly how to use a medic for the best way possible, and you tried to do that with all your might. You said, we need a medic. Our team needs a medic. I'm going to be that medic. The medic needs to heal that guy and needs to do this and needs to do that. You know everything that needs to be done. But it's incredibly difficult to actually execute that. And if you don't do it just right, the other team there's going to be a weakness and you're going to get hit. In Team Fortress 2, if you have any level of skill at all, you can aim in the general direction of the bad guys. You know how to detect a spy. You have basic skills. You read the little hints the game tells you. You don't need such a high level of skill. You just pick the medic. You know what to do with the medic. You go, you do it, and that's the best that can be done. And there isn't really going to be a weakness. And someone else being slightly better than you isn't going to make a difference unless they figure out what needs to be done.
Now, there are pros and cons to this. I mean, it does make the game more team-based and more tactics strategy-based and a lot less... You can't lone wolf it. Well, you can because most people aren't good at this game yet. But
yeah, if I'm on a server full of dumb people, I can just take the scout and win, take the soldier and win.
Yeah,
on my
seriously.
own.
Mostly, if one of us joins a server, unless there's other good people playing, which is about a 50-50 shot. If there aren't other good people on the server, I'll literally just pick a team and just look at how, just decide, all right, I'm going to win the game right now. And I'll just go over and capture 3 times. Or I'll just go get the point. Or
pretty much when I join a game, the game is either in a I join a random team pretty much every time.
I always
the game
join
will
the losing
either
team.
be in a situation where I could just capture on my own and just destroy the other team single-handedly or with a little bit of help. Or it'll be in a situation where my team is so dumb that no matter what I do, it's completely hopeless and there's nothing I can do.
I once got into a base that was like almost optimally defended, and they were actually pretty good about spies, but I got in, and I, bit by bit, kept getting in and inching the intelligence out. And finally, I got the intelligence to the top of the battlements, and they were sitting there, and I was yelling into the microphone and typing, "Everyone go scout! We only need one cap to win! It's sitting in the battlement! If you all just run, we win! Automatically! There's nothing they can do to stop us if we're all scouts. Just go." And no one did it, and the intelligence went back to their base.
Yep.
And it's just see, that's the thing. A lot of people don't see the final fatal flaw of Team Fortress. I'm trying not to sound like, oh, we're so good, because we're not. The thing is, a lot of people are just not they're not experienced with games like this, so they're not super good at it yet. But I think as time goes on, a lot of players are going to play their classes optimally, because it's not hard to do. I think the sniper requires the most FPS skill of any class.
Yeah, the sniper, you actually have to aim, and you can miss.
And sadly, I have met one optimal sniper in the course of my play.
I met a couple. I didn't actually meet them, but basically I was trying to scout, which is the smallest and fastest guy, so supposedly also the hardest to hit. And I maneuvered all over the place as much as I could, attempting to cross the field. And I knew there was a sniper there. I knew he was there. And I was trying to avoid him to the best of my ability. And he shot me dead every time.
Now, I'd always avoided playing sniper in this, partly because in all the other games like this, it was really hard to be the sniper, like really hard, and I was never good at it.
It's also sort of boring because I like to move around the map. I like to make stuff happen. I like to see what's going on.
See,
when you're the sniper, you tend to stay in one spot, and you tend to do a lot of waiting for people to come by.
See, my role was always in the play was in any like previous games. I was always kind of the defensive coordinator guy. Like I'd be defensive. And I would constantly just be reporting to the team on what the defensive situation is and what's going on. It'd be like, enemy nurse spotted at the spiral staircase. Enemy spy disguised as demo man spotted at the blah. And just, on top of defense and all that. And I like being the defensive dude.
Mm-hmm.
I also like, when you're about to cap, suddenly all the defense goes offense to make sure you finish the cap. And then you all go back to defense and all that stuff. But in this game, it's really kind of boring. So many games, I'll set up my sentry, and no one can cap. And even though my team's not defending at all, because my team's full of idiots, people just keep coming down and dying on that sentry, and spies keep coming down, and I guess they get surprised when I shoot them. And actually, probably the best moment in Team Fortress 2 happened to me not too long ago. I was playing on a server full of super nubs. And it was like 4-on-4. So it's just like, it's a fun, easygoing game. I figure I'll just go defense and kind of practice and figure out where the optimal sentry spots are. And I'll just let the teams do whatever they want. I don't care if we win. But I'm not going to let anyone cap. And I set up my sentry. And then I get bored with that. So I go pyro. And I'm sitting in the flag room. And someone decides to go engineer. And he builds a sentry in a stupid spot. And I'm like, build it where I'm standing instead, pointed direction I'm facing. He's like, why? And I explain. He's like, oh, okay. He obviously was a nub, but he was respectful of his elder. So he sets it up, and we're sitting there, and I run away to do something, and I change classes, and I come back, and I change classes, and I come back again as a pyro. And he doesn't shoot at me when I walk in the room, so I just kind of walk over to the sentry gun and stand in front of it. And he just kind of looks at me. So I walk over to him, and I say, "You dumbass, you should have shot me." And he's like, "What? Why?" And I was like, "I might have been a spy." And he's like, "I didn't think about that." And I'm like, "You should always shoot anyone who ever walks into this room, even if I've been a pyro for an hour and I've walked into this room every 5 minutes. You should shoot every pyro that walks into the room, no matter what."
Yep, you should. If you're an engineer, even if some guy spawns at the same time you spawn and he walks out of the spawning room, the supply room, the same time as you walk out of the supply room, and he doesn't leave your sight at all. You got your eye on him the whole time. If you build a sentry and then he walks near it, shoot him. Ammo is free. Spies killing your turrets are not free.
But, and while I'm saying this, he says to me, 'cause in the typing team chat, "That's crap, you're just being paranoid, that's a really stupid way to..." And while he's typing that at me, he's typed a couple lines, a medic walks up behind him. Mm-hmm. A medic on our team. And I'm a pyro, so I just flamethrower.
Yep.
And the guy catches on fire and starts to run away, and he turns around and sees the spy fall over on fire. And then he says, okay, I'll shoot anyone who walks in.
That's right.
And it was so perfect. I couldn't have paid someone enough money to be a spy and walk in at that moment.
Nope, but they did.
But I gotta say something. I'm a really good spy. Like, spying is really fun, and I like doing it.
Yeah, I was an okay spy. Like, other spy, like, I can't be fooled by a spy. I've never been fooled by a spy.
Never once.
But spies have killed me. Like, I'm walking down a hallway, they come up behind me cloaked, and then they stab me. They didn't fool me, they just got me. There's a difference between fooling and getting. You know, fooling would be, I'm standing there, a soldier on my team is standing there, then he destroys my turret and stabs me. That's fooling me, right? Also, you know, sometimes they don't fool me. I see them, I start shooting them, but then they kill me first. That's not fooling me, that's getting me.
Usually because you have low health already from a previous encounter or
something like that. But they've never fooled me. I've never said, oh, that's not a spy, and then it is.
I once spent an entire game basically guarding the enemy intelligence, quote unquote, as an enemy pyro. And I just sat in their flag room, and people would walk in and look and be like, oh, someone's defending it, and walk away. And I had an engineer there with a sentry, and I never destroyed his sentry. I just sat there. And every time the team was like, it's time to cap, I would just kind of do something to make sure they capped, and then I'd come back because no one ever suspected me.
Yeah.
What the hell?
It seems like when I play as spy, like I was having a little bit of trouble at first, because what I was doing is I was cloaking, going across to their base, then disguising. Then Rim said, you know, you can disguise, then cloak. And I was like, oh.
Yeah,
oh,
that's big.
Yeah, that helped me out a lot.
The insight I had, it took till over the weekend.
But see, it wasn't any amount of skill, it was knowledge that helped me out. I was doing everything right. I can manipulate the spy to do everything he can do. It was just the knowing. Once I know, I'm perfect.
The only thing I did, and I knew this, but it took me a while to force myself to do it, was when I'm spying, once I have revealed myself or been caught, like once they're like people like realize and start shooting at me, I always tended to stand my ground and try to kill a couple more people and then die.
That's what I do too.
What I realized is if I just cloak and run away, they won't find me. And now I'm still in their base.
Yeah, that's the thing is like I use the cloak as a device to get across the open battlefield, you know, because on the open battlefield, right, even if I'm disguised as the enemy team, they see someone running out of our base and into their base.
Well, no, more importantly, they should be shooting everyone they see always. Spies cannot work in this game unless people don't know how to play.
Yep. So the only thing I can do to get from my battlefield from my base to their base where disguise is effective in their base, at least effective against stupid people, is by cloaking. So I'd use the cloak to cross from one base to the other. But from then on, I would rely on the disguise, and I wouldn't cloak again. And what I realized I got to do is I got to, like, be disguised, stab someone in the back, and cloak. That's what I got to do.
Yep, and every now and then...
I just got to remember to do it. It's not that I can't do it. It's the knowing, the knowledge.
I guess it's just, I really like the game, and everything's great about it, but more and more, like, the skill is capping out. I think I am
Imagine if it was, like, 10 on 10... and 10 amazing players versus 10 amazing players, and they were all coordinated, I think it'd be a stalemate forever. And you know what happens if there's a stalemate?
Even the uncoordinated games are stalemate. All right, I got to say this, too. When we first started playing this, the sudden death, I thought it was a cool idea.
Yeah,
but
I mean, the problem with a lot of these games in the past was that they would go on forever. It's like, you'd play and play and play for hours and hours and hours. No one would capture the flag, or no one would get a lead, and no one would win.
The thing is, weapons...
and it wouldn't go anywhere.
So a lot of the games would set it where there'd be like a 1 or 2 hour, usually a 1 hour time limit on a map. And it would be, if no one won by the end, whoever had the most points won. And usually you got like, I think Weapons Factory, you got 10 points per player per flag cap. So if you had 10 players, a flag cap was worth 100 points. And each player got an additional point every time they killed an enemy. So theoretically, killing enemies...
I've seen games where it's like you get like 100 points for capturing the flag and like 1 point for touching the flag.
Yeah, just anything to break up little ties, and just whoever has the most point at the end wins. But sudden death could have been cool, except one, sudden death has a time limit, which I don't like. And two, sudden death is just... Game theory ruins sudden death, and I tried in 3 separate games to try to explain this concept to people, but no one got it. In any sudden death situation in this
Basically,
game...
sudden death is where, okay, whoever gets the next point wins, and no one can respawn. There's no respawning, so if you die, you're dead, like Counter-Strike.
Now, in that case, game theory-wise, you have no option but to camp and defend and never go on the offensive.
Yeah, get it? Hopefully you switch to engineers and medics and heavies and those sorts of things, and snipers possibly, maybe even spies, and you just sit there and wait for the enemy to come to you and die on your ultimate defense.
Because
and as soon as enough of them die, you can all go over on the offense and beat the 1 or 2 guys left easily.
Because in this game, defense is king generally, and a 100% defense cannot be broken by a 100% offense.
Nope.
No matter what, even with moderately skilled players. So think of this.
Unless your defense is all scouts.
It's kind of like a Team Fortress equivalent of Pascal's Wager. Forget the fact that Pascal's Wager was completely fallacious.
Is completely fallacious.
Yes, well, is and was. It's complete garbage, and it's been disproven like 1,000 different ways. But anyway, so the matrix of what happens. Let's say I camp, my team camps, and the enemy team camps.
Stalemate.
All right, stalemate, everyone loses. The game tries to make a point like, yes, you're all losers. But you know what? I tied the other team, even though I lost. So,
I'd rather everyone be losers than my team be losers and the other team be winners.
yes, because the net gain or the net loss is less, the net gain is more. Mm-hmm. You're better off being the same as your enemy.
If that was like a tournament at the CPL for a cash prize or something, that wouldn't be too bad if we were all losers. I'd rather have it that way than the other guys get the prize and I don't.
Now, it's very unlikely that if you're camping, the other team will beat you. So basically, best case scenario, you win. Worst case scenario, you tie. Now let's say
why would you ever go on offense?
Because offense, now you have a much less chance of winning, especially if they camp. It's the prisoner's dilemma there. Now your matrix is best case scenario, we win. Worst case scenario, it's not we tie, it's we lose.
So why would you do that?
You've increased the chance of
Even
your enemies
if you're
doing
all
better than you.
gods of Team Fortress 2, the only way that full-on offense is going to work is if at least part of the other team is stupid.
And
a significant part of the other team is
as
stupid.
a result, if you have intelligent players leading teams, the prisoner's dilemma, tragedy, the commons, all those fun things, all they really mean is smart players will never attack.
Another thing, if you're doing capture the flag, right? And someone else, like your team has 1 flag capture, right? Let's say I capture the intelligence. Now it's 1-0. Why should we defend anymore? There's no reason to defend.
Yes, I couldn't explain this to people either. So many games go by where you have to get 3 caps to win, and we've got 2 caps, and the enemy team has none. Or even if you're up by 1. If your team just goes 100% offense, the odds are the enemy team is not also going to go 100% defense. Even if they start capping, you're going to cap faster, and as a result...
As long as you're using scouts to capture the intelligence.
Or you leave 1 engineer behind, or at most 1 engineer and 1 pyro, because the 1 engineer staying behind prevents the empty net goal. But at the same time, who cares if they cap? As long as you cap, you win.
It's like when you're playing ice hockey, and you take the goalie out because you need 1 more goal. So you take the goalie out and you have 6 guys on the ice trying to score, and so it mostly works. It's the reason they do that. You take down your defense because, well, hey, if you need 3 caps to win, right, and it takes, let's say, a minute to capture the flag, right, at going with a scout, you have 1 cap and they have 0. Okay, fuck our defense, full offense. We can, even if we let them capture the flag, we let them just get it. No defense whatsoever.
Plus, they're not just going to get it, because you have 1, they have to get back into their base where your guys are fucking them up anyway.
Yep. So they get 2 caps in the same time it takes you to get 2 caps, and you win 3-2. You win.
Now see,
ta-da!
In FPSs that require a lot more pure FPS skill, which again, not good or bad, because they definitely tried to limit the amount of raw, kind of silly FPS skill this game required. You end up with situations like that instead of situations of the people who are better at the game tend to do better.
You do end up, see, but here's the thing. Let's say play the same scenario out, but only skill matters, right? Okay, we're up by 1. Let's go on full offense. Okay, well, we would have gotten 2 caps and they would have gotten 2 caps, meaning a final score of 3-2, but Joe on our team wasn't as good at, shooting his rocket and aiming it as Mike on their team, and Joe died, even though Joe had the better knowledge and strategy, and he was doing everything right. He was just slower.
Or Baldwin on the enemy team was a preternaturally amazing optimal scout, and he just capped a bunch of times because he's so awesome.
Yeah, he learned like amazing tricks, how to like cap so quickly and destroy engineers on his own with his skill, which things that normally couldn't be done, he achieved feats of amazingness.
Yep.
And that's the thing, is there's no feats of amazingness in Team Fortress 2. It's your class has a limit. That's the best it can do. And your skill cannot take it any higher.
The only time you will accomplish something amazing is when the other team is incompetent.
Or if your team works together in such an amazing way. But even then, that will only work if the other team is incompetent.
I mean, one time I was playing Weapons Factory, and I went in on a suicide mission to take out a bunch of sentries, and I somehow got the flag, and I capped. And the whole server was like, what the fuck? And it wasn't skill. It was mostly like this crazy fluke where I just happened to get out. I can't pretend that I was that good. It was just like this crazy fluke of a thing. And like everyone was like, wow, damn, 1 in a million. And in Team Fortress 2, things like that don't happen.
Nope.
Ever. It's not like 1 in a million. It's like 1 in...
They designed the game so well that it's too perfect. There's no loopholes. There's no nothing. It's exactly as they wanted it.
Yep. And they've been making little game fixes. Like they made the pyro stronger.
Yeah, the pyro was kind of useless because like he'd set people on fire, but then they'd live long enough so where they'd still kill the pyro. So they made his flamethrower more powerful. So now he disintegrates people.
I think in a recent update they made the rockets from the Marine a little bit more damaging. I'm not sure exactly if they did or not, but I think that happened.
Yeah, that was always the one thing I think they need to. That's sort of annoying in the game is the pushback from getting hit by the turrets. Like, when I'm a scout, sometimes someone will put their turret in a narrow hallway, right? And all I want to do is run through the hallway perpendicular to the turret real fast. But what happens is I'm willing to take the damage.
No, Scott, the thing is, I can answer this ahead of time.
It pushes me back. It pushes you.
They did that on purpose.
I know, it's annoying.
Very specifically, I agree with them. Once I saw the rationale, they decided, it's really hard to figure out how strong to make something like a sentry in a game like this. Because with AI, like, I used to mod stuff for Doom, right? I could make an enemy that always hits you no matter what. And I could make a sentry that always hits you no matter what and did infinite damage or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What they did is they decided that they would make the sentries Boolean. In that, if you come into a sentry's line of fire, if you do not immediately take cover, no matter what class you are, you will die. It is a Boolean. You either will die or won't, and you dying is dependent solely upon whether or not you take cover.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you are able to take cover, and there is no one attending the sentry, like an engineer or a pyro, then you will always, Boolean, be able to destroy that sentry because you are able to take cover. You will be able to trick it somehow and like around the corner rocket.
Yeah, I've killed sentries with a scout and a pistol by going, shoot.
You know how many sentries I've sniped because people just don't realize that the sniper can take out a sentry in one hit?
Yeah, I was the scout. Someone built a sentry on the top of their battlements, and I was on the other battlements, and I was a scout. So I took out the pistol, and I shot across the entire fort a whole bunch of times, and it blew it up with the pistol. Hey, what you gonna do? The sentry doesn't shoot that far.
I think we've ranted enough. The only other thing, I wanted to say this just because I learned about it recently, but the art style in Team Fortress 2, we commented a lot about how awesome it is, because it is really awesome. Like, it fits this game so perfectly well, and all the characters just look so great and so stylized and blah, 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 blah. The art for the game is actually based on the art of a turn-of-the-century artist named J.C. Leyendecker.
How do you spell that?
Leyendecker.
Say that slower.
Leyendecker.
I'll just try to figure it out.
Lendecker. I'll link to it or something. You know what? Also, I want to say this because I don't think many people noticed it. In the main screen for Team Fortress 2, there's a bunch of options there, and one of them is developer commentary. I recommend you click on that and do what it says. You'll probably learn a lot about the game.
Yeah, I never actually watched those commentary things, but
it's cool. You walk around.
I think I should.
You walk around, and there's like stuff. Like there's a room where there's two spies standing there, a red one and a blue one. And there's dialogue boxes all over the place. And if you shoot a dialogue box, that dialogue box starts talking, and player models near you will act out the relevant things to show you what the developers are talking about. It's really, really hot, and you'll learn a lot about the game.
They had commentary for like Half-Life 2, and I think Half-Life 2 Episode 1. I just never watched them or listened to them, and maybe I should.
Right, and on that note, partly the reason I wanted to do this episode is to get all this Team Fortress 2 talk out of my system so we stop bringing it up all the time randomly.
I didn't want to do it because I think we talked about it enough already. But, well, Rim wanted to talk about more time, so we did. It's all Rim.
Yeah.
Forward your complaints, Rim at front.
The thing is, Scott was like, we already covered everything.
Oh, goddamn. So, next week, we're doing Ask Rim and Scott.
Yes, we've talked about it all last week. We're not going to explain the whole thing again. If you have a question for us related to video games or gaming in any capacity, go into our forums and post it, or if you must, email it to us. If it's a good question and it's not stupid, we'll probably answer it next week on the show.
Yes, we need questions for Tuesday.
Whatever you want. It could be like, what's your favorite video game? It could be, how do I beat Mario 3? It could be, how come Mario was a plumber? It could be, how do you feel about dating a guy
Well,
who
don't
doesn't
do
like
how
video
come Mario
games?
was a plumber, because you can find that out on Google.
Yeah, but questions like, if you ask a bad question, we just won't answer it. I don't care.
Just ask questions. More questions, the better.
And if you have a non-gaming topic question, just ask it anyway, because we're doing this all week for all nights next week. And as you might know, Thursdays don't really have a topic, so...
If a question doesn't have to do with Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, ask it Thursday.
Yep.
It's everything else.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.